Good day, class. So, this is a recorded session. By the time you have seen this, it has been posted in my YouTube channel and also sa LMS. So, last time, we have discussed about the intelligence cycle. Yan. So, last time, na-discuss natin ang intelligence cycle kung saan this is the whole process of converting raw data and information which would become processed information or yung intelligence. So the main concept of the intelligence cycle circulates on six different areas, starting from planning and direction down to the collection of information and evaluation of those raw information and through the processing and collation of those information in order for it to be analyzed and interpreted by analysts, of course. And also, once it has been analyzed and evaluated, it would be ready for dissemination for those individuals or organizations who needs it the most. Most commonly, yung mga policy makers. And of course, yung mga gagawing polisiya ng mga policy makers would then be for the betterment or for the good of the community in which yung reactions din nila together with other consumers and decision makers, the actions that they will do, the reactions or the evaluation and feedback that they would give is pertinent or yung importante, and it must be timely in order to suppress or to know in advance the methods of operation or yung konsepto ng isang threat, whether it is a physical threat or a psychological threat to a certain place or a certain country. So yun, from planning and direction down to the collection, information collection, the methods and the agencies which collect those. Primarily, it's the government. Sources of information generally classified into two. It's open sources and closed sources or yung non-open sources, 90 and 10 respectively. So again, repeat na ako, kung covert sources or closed sources, these sources are the hardest to obtain information kasi yung open sources, publicly speaking, can be collected or can be acquired by anyone. Hindi lang yung mga uh, information collectors, but the general public as well. Ayan, informants versus informer. When we say informants, take note na lang itong second to the last word, T. Pasabutan na, thank you na lang ang sa kanila. They don't really need any consideration or reward. Kumbaga, voluntary na lang nilang ginagawa. While informer, please take note of the last letter, R, which means that is wanting of a prize or a reward. So, napakaraming methods, napakaraming kagamitan or equipment used in gathering information. Whether it be military, law enforcement, or yung general na government function in order to know a threat before it even happens or before it would affect the public or even the government, kailangan maunahan na yan. Because the policies ng gobyerno is dependent upon foreseeing or predicting as much as possible yung threats na pwedeng mangyari sa isang lugar or sa isang bansa. Last time, we also discussed about tradecraft, any technique or trick that substantiates a view of the work as a skilled occupation or craft. So, sa intelligence communities, merong mga analysts, merong mga paramilitary o yung mga field agents, yung mga informants, mga agents. Each of them has their own specific tradecraft or may sarili silang specialization kung sa formal speaking. Tradecraft is basically yung mga skills na na-acquire nila, yung mga somehow mga trainings na na-acquire nila, and all of those being used in real world situations. And all of those tradecraft, whether it be communications, whether it be psychological operations, yung magaling sila mag-influence ng isang grupo ng mga tao, whether it be yung paramilitary or yung kahusayan nila sa paggamit ng armas, or whether it be medical, kung saan magaling sila mag-distinguish ng mga possible na cures and illnesses, and other tradecraft, which all of those, if each one would work together smoothly, can create a good result when it comes to collecting vital intelligence. Last time all Last time also we have discussed about the information processing steps. So yan, starting from the collation o yung pag-sort out, filter ng mga impormasyon, kung sino ba ang dapat mauna or sino ba yung isusunod o yung mapuhuli. Recording, this is basically done even in private organizations kung saan lahat ng mga bagay na ginagawa, merong kaakibat na document to record the existence of that certain event or that certain operation na ginagawa ng isang organization. Also, evaluation, examination of info to determine the value, the pertinence, and reliability ng source. Kung saan gumagamit tayo ng evaluation guide, yan, to determine the reliability and accuracy of information that was collected, and the evaluation guide with regards to the source of information. All of those are needed to classify them and para ma-classify and distribute them to the right classification in order to determine which of them has immediate pertinence or sino ba yung mga agencies of the government or mga opisina na mas nangangailangan ng nasabing information, and yung reliability ng source of information, whether it be publicly known or would be only known to some, yung reliability kung sino man ang nakakuha ng information. Sa reliability kasi, it is very important itong word na ito, the validity and of course the further validation of information which is passed on. Also sa next phase ng intelligence cycle, yung analysis and intelligence production kung saan i-analyze ng mga intelligence analysts, and also they would be the one to interpret those information to a language na mas madaling maintindihan ng mga policy makers. For example, the president. Kung ang impormasyon na na-interpret na or has become an intelligence, of course, hindi lahat ng mga nagiging presidente sundalo. They're civilians. So, those analysts would analyze it and interpret information from being a military or police-like na technical jargons, i-convert nila into an easier language which yung si policymaker or for example, yung president mas madaling maunawaan. The interpretation would be much easier if it is also disseminated to those individuals within the industry. For example, kung ang information is about the economic uh, downpour or yung economic na sabotage, then it would be easier to interpret it for those in the economy sector o yung mga nasa uh, budget and management, pati na rin sa trade. So, next is dissemination and use. Once the intelligence has already been interpreted and analyzed, it is very much a normal process to disseminate it to those people, especially those concerned agencies who would want that information in a timely manner. Whether the information is raw or finished intelligence, the customers and consumers who would need those immediately needs that information to initiate an action in order to suppress or to combat the threat. Sabihin natin may nakuhang impormasyon on the locations ng mga rebelde sa kabukiran. Na, so, kung naanay impormasyon na nakalap ang mga intelligence communities, then once it has been properly processed, and once it is ready for dissemination, i-disseminate yan sa mga military or law enforcement commanders on that certain area. Yung sinong merong may area of responsibility nung lugar na yun. Which of course, kinakailangan nila yun para magampanan yung kanilang mandate, which is to serve and protect the people. And how would they serve and protect the people properly kung hindi naman nabibigay sa kanila yung tamang impormasyon sa tamang panahon or in advance. So it's very important na yung pag-disseminate to the right people and done in a timely manner. Evaluation and feedback is very much important in the intelligence cycle because yung policy makers or yung mga end users, whether it be the public or high-ranking officials of the organization, it is needed na meron silang masabi in order to determine if it needs more information gathering or it needs a change sa kanilang perception or sa atake kung paano nila kukunin yung information or paano nila babaguhin yung strategies in order to control or to suppress the threat. So, also, meron tayong mga methods and techniques in collecting information. As what I have said earlier, there are open sources and closed sources. It is easier to translate it into the overt sources of information and the covert sources of information. Overt is open, closed is covert, which means 90% of the information gathered by the intelligence communities or even regular organizations came from those open sources, which are much easier to collect. Okay, ayan. Pag closed sources, yan na yung mga kinagigiliwan ng iba. Yan. Surveillance, yun na yung sinasabing pag-intel. Na, yung somehow yung colloquial na nalalaman ng publiko about intelligence. So, ayan. Surveillance, surreptitious entry, yan. Yung secretly entering a certain structure, and of course in tactical interrogation. So on this session, we would start discussing on the types of informants. Let's start first with criminal informants. These informants give information about criminals of the underworld, commonly those from the organized criminal organizations, with the understanding that their identities would be protected. Yan. So, these criminal informants are those former criminals or current criminals who wanted change or would want somehow revenge on those underworld individuals or underworld organizations. Siguro makabalo sila sa gibuhat siguro sa organization. Next is confidential informant. So sa confidential informant, take natin yung word na ito, confidential. It's just somehow similar sa criminal informant pero yung kanyang identity hindi niya binibigay. So they give information to any violation of the law, including crimes, criminals, and their organizations. But yung kanilang mga information is key, but their identities are generally anonymous. So next, voluntary informant. These informants give information freely and willfully kasi commonly sila yung naging witness ng nasabing violation of law. So they give information voluntarily, and most of the times they won't need any reward or any other exchange of consideration. Next is special informant. Special informants gives information concerning specialized cases only. For example, kung ang violation of law is part of economic sabotage, for example, then they must get information from those who knows more on that industry or yung field na yan. So they would somehow ask businessmen or employees. If the violation of law originates galing sa education na side, sabihin natin, then who better knows the education industry than teachers or professors? The same goes with artists. Kung ang violation of law naganap sa show business, then saan magtatanong yung mga informants or informers? Then, sa mga artists. Next is anonymous informant. It is the same sa confidential informant. Yan. But it is having a difference na itong anonymous informant, anonymous ang pagbigay niya ng kanyang identity, but the information that he gives are not that really the key information. Hindi lahat ng binibigay niya impormasyon yan yung importante, but because the anonymous informant gives information anonymously dahil natatakot siya na baka balikan siya or ang kanyang pamilya. Yan. So, anonymous informant, they would give it anonymously without physical contact. Yan. Through telephone or magpapadala na lang sila secretly ng message or letter. Okay, next. These are the motives of an informant. So first and most commonly, reward. Yan. May mga informant na siguro kinakailangan ng pera. And they want it in a quick and easier manner. In a place na masasabi nilang, oh, mas madali ito para sa akin. So they would give information in exchange of a reward, whether it be monetary reward or may kondisyones silang matatanggap. Next, revenge. So sa revenge, it is commonly done by informants in order na makabawi sila or kumbaga makabalo sila sa previous organization na karon ila ng ginakontra. Na, for example, merong mga sumurrender na NPA sa kasundaluan and then in exchange for having a better life back to the community, magbibigay sila ng impormasyon sa kinalalagyan ng mga rebelde. Kung saan ba sila pwedeng magpondo, kung saan ba sila nag-ooperate, o kung saan ba sila gumagawa ng mga kabulastugan nila or mga krimen nila. With the motive of taking revenge to their previous organization or yung previous na mga kasamahan nila. Yan. There are also informants who gives information dahil natatakot sila sa mangyayari sa kanila once they would be prosecuted or would be put into court or makukulong. Dahil takot sila makulong, magbibigay sila ng impormasyon in order to save themselves or their family. Yan. Some other motives includes friendship. Yan. Siguro gusto nila ma magkaroon ng revenge sa nangyari sa kanilang kaibigan. Yan, patriotism, vanity, civic-mindedness, halos pareha lang yan sa patriotism. The thing is, civic-mindedness is not as deep with patriotism. Kasi sa civic-mindedness, para lang yan yung normal na ginagawa ng mga tao. Like for example, itong senaryo na ibibigay ko, may mga tao na magtatawag ng pulis and would give the location of a certain crime na nangyayari in which hindi naman sila yung involved. Kumbaga, for example, may nakita silang babaeng nasagasaan, they would call the ambulance or the law enforcement para rumesponde because it is their civic duty na para hindi magkaroon ng abala sa iba at para naman masagip yung mga biktima. One of the motives also is yung repentance, especially yung mga dating kriminal, mga dating rebelde. Siguro gusto na nilang magbago ng buhay. So, in exchange of a better and brand new life, they would give information with regards to their former organization or former gang. Yan. And of course, one of those motives na medyo may questionable intention, questionable motive is yung competition. For example, sa business industry, may isang company na magbibigay impormasyon sa kinaukulan or sa authorities na si Company B ay gumagawa ng isang produkto without legal papers or gumagawa ng produkto nila illegally. So, ang motive yun ni company A is to remove or destroy competitor or company B. Yun. So, that is competition. Okay, so kung meron kayong questions, ilagay nyo lang sa open forum. Okay, so let's proceed next. Basic to informant recruitment. So, of course, just like a normal organization, a normal agency, yung mga informants, nire-recruit din. Dili lang na sila pareha sa uban na ila lang i-invite mga kailan nila. So, in informant recruitment done by agent handlers, yan, o yung tinatawag naming enablers, yan. Ito mga enablers, they are also termed as agent handlers. Kasi itong mga agent handlers, ang kanilang trabaho is to recruit, to organize, and also to maintain what we call an informant network or informant net. So kung si agent A, meron siyang informant 1, meron siyang si informant 2, yan, si informant 3, and si informant 4. Yan yung kanyang initial na informant net. So before siya magkaroon ng initial informant network, he would need to consider those recruitment processes sa pag-recruit ng isang informant. So first, kailangan muna ni enabler or ni agent handler mag-select from those prospective individuals. Kailangan niya mag-select kung sino ba ang mas may malalim or mas may mahigpit na access or connection to the target organization or criminal group. It is very important to select individuals to become informants na mapagkakatiwalaan ni enabler or ni agent, ni intelligence agent. So, hindi pwede itong si informant 1 kahit naman may malakas siyang connection sa loob ng sindikato, pero wala naman siyang klarong rason para magbigay pa ng information laban sa criminal organization. Kumbaga may pagdududa si agent kay informant 1. So it's very important that he would select those who would show loyalty and who would show that deep connection sa target organization. Kasi itong si informant 1, pwede siyang magbigay pa ng or mag-lead pa ng other informants. The same goes with informant 2. Kumbaga nagkakaroon ng informant web. Yan. Kumbaga nagkasangay-sangay na. Yan. Si informant 4 at si informant 3, magre-recruit din sila ng mga informants. Yan. Habang marami silang nare-recruit, mas malawak ang nagiging informant network ni agent handler. Yan. Next is investigation. So before sila informant 1, 2, 3 at 4 maging regular na informante ni agent handler, they must be investigated with regards to their deep motives or yung kanilang tinatawag na backgrounds. That's why may kinokondak na BI or background investigation in order to determine kung sino ba talaga sila, ano bang history nila with that organization, or kung meron ba silang history of violating a law or a history of violence. Yan. So that's very important yung background investigation to know the background of that prospective informant. Next is approach. Yan. So, yung approach na gagawin ni enabler or ni agent handler towards the candidate must be free of compromise or hindi malalaman ng publiko or even those criminal organizations na kalaban ng publiko. For example, sa kapulisan or sa law enforcement in general, yung mga informants would meet with their enablers or yung mga agent handlers nila in a place na secret or yung hindi commonly dinadaanan or pinupondohan ng mga tao. That is what we call safe house. Yan. So, kung sa kapulisan or sa law enforcers, ang tawag sa lugar na kung saan nagmi-meet up si agent handler at si informant at kung saan sila nag-exchange ng information, yan ay tinatawag na safe house. Yan. Please take note, safe house. This is where the law enforcement exchanges information or keeps the information and their informants safely. Kung sa mga syndicates naman or mga criminals, ang tawag sa lugar na yan is, of course, yan yung kuta nila. They call it the stash house. Kasi hindi lang dyan sila nag-meet in order to exchange information, but also dyan din nila tinatago or iniimbak, daan na nila ginapundo ang mga nakawat nila or katong mga fruits of the crime. Itong mga nakawat nila or na-hostage nila or katong mga valuable materials na ilang nakalap, dira na nila itago sa stash house. Next is the testing phase. Yan. Dito sa testing phase, of course, when you are training somebody, whether it be private or in government institutions, kailangan ng on-the-job training. Kumbaga, tinetest si informant ng agent handler kung hanggang saan pa ba ang kaya niya. Or if capable ba siya sa trabahong gusto ipagawa ni enabler. Yan. To test the possible informant or candidate agent on what he will do or what he can do on real world situations. Yan. Until si informant or yung candidate na agent would be integrated into the regular cycle or yung regular na puwersa. Okay, so those are the basics to informant recruitment. Let's proceed to the collection disciplines of intelligence. So napakarami to. Just take note of this. First, human. That is for human intelligence. Ito yung discipline or collection disciplines na kung saan ang ginagamit na method of collecting information is with the use of a human agent or a clandestine agent. When we say clandestine, this is secretive. Yan. Clandestine, that is commonly termed secretive or covert. Yan. Human intelligence or human. Yan. When the intelligence agency uses imagery intelligence, kung saan gumagamit sila ng images or photographs with the use of satellites, which is of course common ngayon, and also of aerial units, commonly yung tinatawag na mga spy assets, yan, or yung mga spy planes. Yan. Kasi yung mga spy planes, wala yan silang kargang armas, they don't carry guns or missiles or bombs. Ang kinakarga ng mga spy planes, whether it be manned planes, kagaya ng U-2, or whether it be drone, ang ginagamit, yung kinakarga nila are high definition and those mga cameras na hindi built for normal usage. Yung specifically for military use. Yun ang ginagamit sa image. Yan, imagery intelligence or IMIN. Next is MASINT or measurement and signature intelligence. So this is used commonly ng mga bansa na may nuclear capability or meron silang kalabang bansa na merong nuclear capability rin. Yan. So it measures the radiation levels of a certain place. It measures if yung ginagawa ng isang bansa with regards to their military weapons, eh, nagpapakawala ng mga dangerous waves such as infrared waves, yan, or yung mga delikado para sa human hearing at delikado para sa mga electronic systems, yung mga radio frequencies na pwedeng i-jam, yan, or jamming of a radio frequency. Kung saan jamming, it disrupts the relay of information with regards to the radio frequency. Yan. Or jamming ng radar. Itong radar kasi, ang mini-measure nito is radio waves. Kung saan nade-detect nito kung sino man ang lumilipad na mga objects sa kahanginan. So it is possible that it can be jammed by use of jammers, which lahat ng jammers are electronically operated. Yan. So sa MASINT, yan din ang ginagamit. Jammers or those highly sensitive detection uh, equipment. Other disciplines include OSINT, open source intelligence, such as yung open sources, newspaper clippings, social media, TV, broadcast, yan. Next is SIGINT or signal intelligence or signals intelligence. Meron yan siyang sub-disciplines. First is yung comment or communications intelligence. Dito nangyayari yung tinatawag na pag-intercept ng mga communication lines or telephone lines commonly. So dito nangyayari yung wiretapping. Wiretapping means penetrating into a communications medium, commonly yung telephone. Naglalagay sila ng tapping equipment para marinig yung exchange of information na ginagawa via telephone. When we say ELINT, electronic signal, it detects foreign signals by the use of antennas and converts it into signals which can be friendly or which could be a foe or enemy. Kasama sa SIGINT or Signals Intelligence, yung tinatawag na eavesdropping. So yung secretly nakikinig ka sa usapan ng iba na kung saan yung mga taong nag-uusap hindi alam na nakikinig ka. That is eavesdropping. Yan. So, bigyan natin yan ng text. Eavesdropping, it is secretly listening to others without them knowing. Yan yung eavesdropping. Can be done physically, yung ididikit mo yung tenga mo sa pintuan habang nakasira, or with the use of bugging devices. Yan. So, merong mga bugging devices which can be used to eavesdrop. Okay? So next, we'll proceed with the intelligence operation in general. So when we say intelligence operation, it is the result of intelligence planning. Pagkatapos ng analysis, pagkatapos ma-disseminate sa policymakers o sa mga heads ng agencies, and once maka-devise sila ng plano to combat or suppress the threat, yung kanilang ipaplano is a, a an operation in which kinakailangan nilang magkaroon pa ng further information or mismo kanilang i-suppress or i-combat na yung threat. So, of course, yung intelligence operation involves processes or cycles. Yan. So, meron yung 14 operational cycles. So, each of those 14 operational cycles are series of cycles na once it would be successful, it would proceed to the other cycle. Kumbaga stages ng cycles. First is itong mission and target. So in an intelligence operation, it must be considered sa planning phase na sino ba ang ilalagay natin na agent or informers at kung paano ba sila makakapasok sa target organization or target area. Would it be done through infiltration? Yan. Or penetration? When we say infiltration, it is the insertion of an action agent inside the target organization. So for example, yung ginawa ni Carl Schulmeister, kung saan nakapasok siya with the use of a fake identity, papasok sa Austria-Hungarian na general staff o yung military nila. Yan. So, isa siyang French na nakapasok sa kalabang Hungarian, yung Austro-Hungarian military, at nagpanggap siya bilang kapareho nila. Nakapasok siya sa organization. Next is penetration. When we say penetration, it is the recruitment of an action agent inside the target organization. So for example, si agent handler or yung enabler, naka-recruit siya ng sabihin natin isang servant sa loob ng sindikato. Or naka-recruit si agent handler ng informante na nasa loob ng organization, which ironically, yung uyab, katong uyab or girlfriend sa head ng sindikato. So yun, na-penetrate na ang organization. So the next cycles involves, of course, included yan, planning, spotting. Sa spotting na cycle, it is very important na malaman mo kung sino ba talaga ang target mo at malocate mo siya, ma-spot mo siya in a timely manner. Of course, during the course of the intelligence operation, there would still be background checks or complete background checks. This is PBI or personal background investigation with regards to the informants na na-recruit ni enabler or ni agent handler, and of course further back, background investigation sa target or yung target organization. When we say recruitment, yan, yung mga qualified lang ang pwede magkaroon ng access to the target o yung pwedeng makalapit kay target. Sabihin natin, merong nagpapanggap na agent na isang double agent na magsisilbing alipin or an enforcer sa sindikato. So only those qualified, yung mga magaling magpanggap na mga agents ang pwede lang magkaroon ng access near to the target. Yan. So they must select and recruit those highly trained and highly qualified personnel. Of course, training. So training is very important, hindi lang sa firearms, but also in language, especially kung nasa ibang bansa ang operation, communications, marunong gumamit ng mga communication devices. Um, it also includes martial arts, especially yung mga paramilitary or yung mga physical na lalaban sa kung sino mang threat ang mag-emerge and other trainings. Yan. Of course, before the conduct of the operation itself, merong briefing. So itong briefing, nire-review yung mga plano sa pag-atake or plano sa pag-infiltrate or penetrate sa target organization. Kumbaga, ito yung pagsusuot ng brief. Yan. Kumbaga, habang sinusuot mo yung brief, dala-dala mo yung mga critical na mga bagay, critical na information at mga considerations bago ka sumabak sa laban. Also, it is very important yung dispatch or yung somehow related sa constant communication with the penetrating agent or yung naka-infiltrate na agents. So, they must have secure communications na hindi pwede ma-compromise or ma-jam. Yan. So, yan na yung mga nakikita nyo sa mga pelikula na mga secret communication devices na patagong ginagamit. And of course, after the conduct of the operation, once it is successful at nakauwi ng buhay yung mga penetrating or infiltrating agents, then they would need to proceed to that safe house or sa mismong headquarters na napagkasunduan or sa meeting place, and then they would conduct the briefing. Kumbaga, dito na nila nire-review kung anong nangyari during the operation. From the initial stages hanggang sa pagbalik nila and successfully completing the organization. Sa debriefing, kasama na dyan yung pag-meet up with the policymakers kung successful bang operation or hindi. So, kumbaga, dito mo na tinatanggal yung brief. Yan. Debriefing. Also included in the 14 operational cycles or 14 operational phases, yan. What if during the operation, you have spent money? So, kailangan siguro magbayad. Unless kung government funded, hindi na kailangang mag-worry with regards to money. So, yan. Siguro, during the course of the operation, bumili ka ng mamahaling sasakyan or kumain ka sa mamahaling restaurant. So, the technique in an intelligence operation, please take note of this. In payment, yan, whether it will be done through buying a car during the operation, buying clothes, buying equipment, or paying food, the mode of payment, yan, the mode of payment must be done on a cash basis only. Cash lang ginagamit. Nganong cash na may ginagamit? In order to prevent the enemies or yung kalabang organization, whether kalabang bansa or yung mga sindikato, na matrace back yung identity ng mga penetrating or infiltrating agents or informers. Yan, cash basis. Kasi 'di ba pag cash, Commonly, yung resibo, either taguin mo without your information. Yan. So, kung gagawa ka lang naman ng krimen or gagawa ka ng intelligence operation, huwag ka gumamit ng credit card or debit card. Kasi of course, kung hindi naman fake yung pangalan na ginamit mo doon, kung hindi naman siya fake account, di kung ginamit mo yung original or yung totoo mong credit card, you would be burned out. Please take note of the term. You will be burned out as an intelligence agent. Masusunog ka. When we say burned out, your identity is compromised or you are already exposed to the enemies or to the public. So, lahat ng intelligence agents, yan ang kinatatakutan, ang ma-burned out. Much more yung malaman yung totoo nilang pangalan at trabaho. Ayan. So, in order to prevent burning out during the operation, there are different dispositions or alternatives to be done. It involves the activity of rerouting, siguro rerouting from point A to point B, i-reroute or ibahin yung lugar na kung saan sila magpapahinga, or much worse, they would terminate the operation kasi masyado ng delikado. And for example, isang agent ng gobyerno, sinusundan na pala siya ng agent ng mga rebelde. Sinusundan na siya. So how would Agent A remove this threat? So, kung naglalakad lang siya, palagi siyang liliko. Palagi siyang mag-iikot hanggang mawala na niya sa likod niya yung counter-intelligence agent ng mga rebelde. Next is, of course, reporting. That's a constant. Para malaman ng agency, para malaman ng mga bosses ng intelligence agent, yung kanyang mga boss, kung ano na ang progress ng operation. The policymakers might want to know the progress of the operation, and a secured and scheduled communication must be done successfully in order for the agent or their informers to report to the agency successfully para makadecide further yung mga policymakers on what to do next. Ito na namang operational testing. It is done to test on the field yung mga bago lang na na-recruit na informers or somehow agents. Yan. So, yun yung 14 operational cycles ng isang intelligence operation. So, let's proceed next to one part of the intelligence operation, which is the use of undercover or cover. Yan. So, those are two different terms, slightly connected but vastly different, especially sa kanilang purpose. So, when we say cover, it is the means by which the individual, the group, or organization conceals the true nature of its acts or even yung kanilang existence. Yan. So, best example, pwede man ninyo ni research sa Google. Yan. Or kung gatuo mo sa Wikipedia, if it is credible enough, yung ginamit na cover ng United States government with regards to the CIA agents na planong pabagsakin si Saddam Hussein initially nung 1990s. So they use fake identities in order to penetrate Iraq. They use those agents, of course, with cover in order to conceal their identities, to conceal their true objectives, and of course, para ma-decline or ma-denounce yung existence nila from a casual or suspective observer galing sa kalaban. Yeah. So, ang CIA is commonly known sa intelligence communities around the world to have the most vast na cover identities in which pwede silang magpanggap from a fake airline to a fake hotel. Yan. So there are reports also na sa buong mundo meron silang mga pinupondohan ng mga fake agencies, mga fake hotels, even a fake airline. Yun ang ginagamit na cover ng CIA at ng gobyerno ng Amerika against those enemies nila, whether it be an enemy country or an enemy politician. Ayan. So next, cover story. So it is not just a cover but you need a cover story. Kabilang sa cover ang pagkakaroon ng cover story kung saan meron kang backup na story, a biographical data in which pwede kang magpanggap into that person. So, common na technique sa cover story na ginagamit hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas, pati sa buong mundo, is the use of names from people na namatay na more than 30 years ago. So, kung merong namatay 30 years ago or more than 30 years ago, yun ang gagamiting pangalan ng isang agent in which to conceal his true name to protect him and also his family, pati yung organization. Yung kanyang personality, yung kanyang pag-uugali is based on a cover story. Yan. So, pwede siyang magpanggap na professor sa isang university, but his intentions are basically a government function. O pwede siyang magpanggap na artista or magpanggap na isang singer, pero yung original niyang purpose is to obtain information against those who are enemies of the state. Yan. So, ang gagamitin niya, a cover story, peking identity, part of a cover. Yan. Cover is a general term. Parte ng cover ang cover story, and of course, cover support. What if yung magtatanong sa identity mo hindi makontento sa sinagot mo kung ikaw ay isang agent? So you need backup to support the cover story. You need backup documents. You need backup individuals to support your fake identity. So yan yung cover support. For example, nagpanggap kang doktor pero hindi na kontento yung ina-applyan mong ospital, magtatanong sila sa mga binigay mong mga contact numbers sa iyong resume or sa iyong CV. So, yung dapat nilagay mo sa cover story mo, yung biographical data mo na resume, eh dapat yung numbers nun, yung matatawagang tao doon, would support your fake identity. At para hindi magkaroon ng mas malaking duda yung pinipenetrate mong organization. So, anyone could be watching you. Yan. Peking magtataho. pekeng nagba nagbebenta ng siomai, pekeng pulubi, yan. Yan, that is most common, especially dito sa Pilipinas. Yan, yung mga pekeng, mga taong grasa. Yan, you might not know, yung taong grasa na nagpapanggap dyan or nasa kalsada, captain pala sa army or an official or an officer sa kapulisan. Hindi mo alam yung taxi driver na sinasakyan mo, pulis pala yan. Hindi mo alam yung nakabangga mong nagbenta ng taho, sundalo pala. So anyone could be watching. Anyone could conceal their true identities, especially the government and their agents. So the importance of cover is to maintain secrecy of operation para yung mga nakakaalam sa operation ay yung mga tao lamang na kinakailangan makaalam sa operation at hindi yung mga kalaban. Next, there must be secrecy of operation against friendly agencies who do not have the need to know of the operation. Hindi naman gusto ipaalam ng kapulisan sa Department of Education yung plano nila na mag-penetrate sa mga ibang eskwelahan na may siguro may influence yung rebelde. Or ayaw naman ipaalam ng kasundaluhan sa CHED or sa Commission on Higher Education na gusto nilang mag-penetrate sa mga eskwelahan na may maraming mga NPA leaning or sympathizers. Yan, NPA leaning sympathizers. Marami yung mga eskwelahan na merong mga estudyanteng ganyan. And of course, the importance of a cover is to ensure at a higher percentage yung success sa pag-accomplish ng mission. Yan. So those are the importance of using a cover. The following are the functions of using a cover. For offensive purposes, yung cover, together with the cover story, the cover support, it could get access to the target and their facilities and do it secretly or do it in a clandestine manner. And of course, on a defensive function, it serves to prevent detection from counterintelligence ng kalabang organization or ng threat. Yan. So, it would remain secret on both sides. So, next, yan, yung broad concepts of cover or the use of cover. So, when we say cover status, it is a cover that is general in nature and relatively permanently adopted in order to explain the presence in any given area. For example, may nagpapanggap na agent ng gobyerno sa isang lugar na siya ay isang dayong doktor. So, he would use his cover story as a doctor and it is supported by documents, peking lisensya sa pagiging doktor, peking ID, peking uniform. And of course, yung nagpapanggap na agent must be dedicated sa kanyang pagganap bilang doktor. Cover status is general in nature again and relatively permanently adopted. So, ang pasabot ana, dapat katong agent na nagpapanggap or those agents and informers who are undercover must be adapting their identities na parang permanent identities nila. Kung nagpapanggap ang isang Kristiyanong agent as a Muslim agent, dapat he would purposely adopt the Muslim identity na binigay sa kanya. Next is cover action. A cover designed to explain away or allow to perform a given clandestine activity. Yan. So, what if tumagal yung operation? What if yung isang action ni agent ay nagkaroon ng somehow may konting pagkakamali? So, para matakpan yung pagkakamali, there must be a cover for that certain action in order to maintain the clandestine nature of that activity. Yan. And of course, natural cover. Yan. When we see natural cover, yung identity or a cover that completely fills or fits the background and capabilities nung agent. Yan. Kasi kung natural cover, mas easier ma-adapt ni agent and would ensure a higher security protection against clandestine activities ng kalaban. And of course, it makes the agent more flexible, mas komportable siyang mag-ooperate. One concept sa paggamit ng cover, yung sinabi ko kanina, it's all translated to living one's cover. Dapat dedicated ka sa identity na binigay sa iyo. Yan. You must memorize it and internalize the data that you will be using, the cover that you will be using. Na parang ikaw talaga yun. Official cover. A cover sponsored by an overt agency of the government. So for example, ikaw ay isang agent ng kapulisan, the police or the intelligence group ng PNP nagbigay ng identity sa iyo from a dead man in which yung kanyang profession, teacher. So, you would use that cover which is officially awarded to you or designated to you and use it like it is your own. When we say non-official cover naman, this is a cover adopted by a person free of any official connections. So, binigyan ng independence or kalayaan si agent na pumili ng identity na sa tingin niya mas suitable sa kanya. Non-official cover. Walang interference sa kanyang mga bosses o sa kanyang agency kung government agent siya. When we say artificial cover, this is the cover using biographical data adapted for a fictitious purpose. Yan. So, artificial lang naman din tong iba, but itong artificial cover, it is much more fake compared sa previous two. Ayan. So, may ginagamit kang supporting documents na nagsasabing, oh, ikaw yan. Ikaw yung peking doktor, ikaw yung peking pulubi, or yung peking nagtitinda ng siomai. Next, these are the requirements for a cover. So it can be done by informants na civilian or the police agents. So it must have the following requirements. First, it must provide freedom of movement to everyone na involved. Yan. So hindi pwede yung kanyang identity would just limit him sa isang maliit na lugar lamang. Yung hindi siya nakakagalaw. Yan. Next is, it must protect the investigator or the agent from compromise. So, hindi pwedeng yung kanyang cover story or yung kanyang cover ay madaling mabaliktad. It must be airtight or yung may redundancy. Kumbaga kung pumalya ang isa, meron kang backup. Yan yung tinatawag na redundancy. Yan. Next is, it must be consistent with the social status of target personalities. Kung ang target organization ninyo is a drug syndicate, then dapat yung identity or yung cover na ginagamit ni agent must also be those criminals na connected sa drug operations. Also, it must provide adequate leisure time in order for the agent to have an opportunity to communicate with the agency or to relax somehow from the stress ng operation. Yan. It also needs to be flexible para hindi lang nagtitiwala sa isang data, pwede siya magkaroon ng marami pang backup para hindi naman siya ma-corner or ma-burned out. Next is, it must be consistent with the financial resources available sa investigator or kay uh, intelligence agent. Yan. Kung ang pondo na binigay sa inyo sa totality ng operation is just siguro mga 500,000 or 300,000, then it must be commensurate or yung tama lang para mapondohan yung operation ninyo na sabihin natin would be happening within 6 months or mangyayari in 6 months. Yan. So, hindi pwedeng kumulang. Mas mabuting sumobra kaysa kumulang. Yan. So, here are the types of cover. First, natural cover using actual or true background to fit the purpose ng agent. Yan. Naturally using lang. Actual or true background. So, for example, si agent, he graduated as a criminologist. Yan. Or nag-graduate siya ng criminology. So, nagpanggap siya sa organization bilang isang criminologist. Pero hindi niya binanggit na pulis siya. Yan. Next is artificial cover using biographical data adapted for that fictitious purpose. Yan. Fictitious or factitious. Yan. Artificial. Gumamit siya ng peking identity. When we say cover within a cover, the use of a secondary cover in case of compromise. Yan, for example, ang kanyang original na identity na ginamit is a doctor. Pero na-compromise siya. So, kailangan na niyang mag-pull out or tumakas. So, sabihin natin, habang papatakas siya, gumamit pa siya ng isa pang identity which is a businessman. So, yun yung kanyang cover within a cover. Na businessman siya at the same time, doktor. And of course, kung mas marami pang ginamit, anything that you would wish, that is multiple cover. Okay? So, those are the types of cover. Okay, next. Hazard of cover. So, napakaraming mga hazards with using a cover. First is, static or dormant position, yung nakapondo lang. Siguro ang ginamit mong cover is ordinary citizen ka lang. Yan, or for example, tigbaligya ra ka o siomai, taho, or unsa ba ng tambay na gigamit nimo na pangalan or identity. So delikado because your freedom of movement, which is important sa intelligence operation, mawawala. Wala na kay freedom na makatakas, wala na kay freedom na makaikyas once na ang imong identity mabulilyaso. Again, that is static or dormant position. Next is unhostile active opposition. So, commonly nasa mga political enemies of the state. For example, yung si PP-NPA. So, yan, they would somehow not be violent, they would not be that hostile, pero what if may isa pang agency ng government na inakala mong kalaban? Yan. Friendly forces who do not possess the need to know. Yan. So that is a hazard. Next is yung hostile active opposition. Yan. So what if ikaw na intelligence agent ng PNP, sinusundan ka na ng intelligence agent or yung mga agents ng sindikato. They're already following you or shadowing you. Yan. Or they are conducting surveillance on you. That's a danger. So in case of compromise or in case that the agent will be burned out, these are the precautions or the things you must need to consider in order to protect your identity at least. So first, move out immediately. Hawa na dira. Pull out. Yan. Next is start a new facility for operation. Kasi when you are compromised, it is in more ways than one, compromise na pud ang imuhang location ug sa imuhang um, area of operation o yung inyong safe house. So, balhin mo. Evacuate ninyo inyong mga informants, inyong mga kagamitan, and then proceed to a new facility or new safe house. And then once you have proceeded to a another facility, you need to build a newly or entirely new cover. So yan, build an entirely new cover. Hindi pwedeng i-continue mo na yan once you are compromised. Balhin na kag identity. Next is the use of circuitous routes. Yan, para mailad or ma-confuse ang nagasunod sa imuha, you use routes na carefully selected at pwede mo mauto or mailad nimo katong nag-surveillance sa imuha na enemy. Next is be specifically careful to former contacts kay basin ka na pod sila na influence na sa enemies. Basin na himo na kang cornered, burned out na ka. Yan. Especially with non-intelligence personnel. And in case of compromise, be patient, slowly, and careful. Meron kasing kasabihan na haste makes waste. Mamadali ka, you are more prone na magkamali. So be patient, slowly, and careful. Okay, so that sums up for this um, online meeting, so online session, I mean. So I would be posting this LMS and sa YouTube. Before I sign out, next meeting I would be discussing the organizational cover. Yan. up until the undercover assignment and counterintelligence. Okay, so once again, thank you and God bless sa inyo ha.